In 2008, a Harvard economics professor lost 40% of his retirement savings in the stock market crash. Not because he didn't see it coming. He published a paper warning about housing market instability 6 months before Lehman Brothers collapsed. He knew what was happening. He understood the math. And he still couldn't bring himself to sell. This isn't a story about stupidity. It's about something far more uncomfortable. We live in the most financially educated era in human history. You can access MIT economics lectures for free. Investment apps gamify portfolio management. Financial literacy is taught in schools. And yet the average American with a college degree still carries over $37,000 in credit card and personal loan debt. Doctors file for bankruptcy at higher rates than the general population. Tech workers earning 6 figures live paycheck to paycheck. The assumption has always been that financial failure is an education problem. Learn compound interest, understand diversification, budget properly, and you'll be fine. Except the data tells a different story. Intelligence doesn't correlate with financial success the way we think it should. And the reason has nothing to do with knowledge. Here's what actually happens when you make a financial decision. Your brain doesn't process money as an abstract number. It processes it as an emotional prediction system. Every financial choice triggers a cascade of ancient neural pathways that evolved when humans lived in small tribes, and the biggest economic decision was whether to eat the antelope now or smoke it for later. This system runs on 2 currencies: immediate relief and distant threat. Immediate relief feels tangible, real. You can touch it. Distant threat feels hypothetical, even when you intellectually know it's real. This isn't a bug. For most of human history, this was exactly the right priority system. Long-term planning meant nothing if you starved next week. But then we built an economy that runs entirely on delayed consequences. Credit cards separate the pleasure of buying from the pain of paying by 30 days. Retirement accounts ask you to sacrifice today for a version of yourself that won't exist for 40 years. Student loans front-load education with back-loaded debt. Every major financial structure in modern life is designed in a way that puts your ancient brain and your modern reality in direct conflict. Smart people aren't immune to this. They're often more vulnerable. In 2006, 2 Yale researchers studied the financial behaviors of university faculty, sorting them by department. They found that economics and finance professors, people who literally teach portfolio theory, consistently made emotional trading decisions that contradicted their own research. They held losing stocks too long. They sold winners too early. They checked their accounts obsessively and made impulsive moves. The pattern held across professions. Doctors understood statistical risk, but routinely underinsured. Lawyers grasped contract law but signed predatory mortgage terms. Engineers calculated expected values but still played the lottery. Here's why. Intelligence gives you a better story. When a financial decision feels wrong but you want to make it anyway, a smart brain doesn't override the impulse. It justifies it. You tell yourself this credit card debt is strategic leverage, that your underfunded retirement account will catch up later because you're investing in your career now, that you're not overspending, you're optimizing for experiences over material wealth. These aren't lies. They're sophisticated narratives that let you do what you already wanted to do while preserving your self-image as a rational person. The smarter you are, the better you are at building these narratives. The financial system isn't neutral in this fight. It's engineered to exploit exactly this vulnerability. Take mortgages. The 30-year mortgage didn't emerge organically. It was designed in the 1930s specifically to make homes feel affordable by hiding the true cost. A $300,000 house doesn't feel like $300,000. It feels like $1,800 a month. Your brain anchors to that smaller number because that's the number attached to the immediate pain. The fact that you'll actually pay over $500,000 after interest is technically disclosed, but it's buried in the distant threat category your brain deprioritizes. Buy now, pay later services have perfected this. 4 interest-free payments doesn't trigger the same psychological friction as the full price, even though the full price is identical. The payment structure simply moves the pain further from the decision point. You're not being tricked. The information is right there. But the design knows your brain will feel the $45 installment more vividly than the $180 total. Or consider this. Credit card companies used to print your full balance in large numbers on statements. Now most highlight your minimum payment instead. Same information, different emphasis. And it works. Consumers who pay attention to minimum payments take 37% longer to pay off balances. The system understands your neural architecture better than you do. We tell ourselves financial success is about discipline, about saying no, about delayed gratification. But that framing assumes you're fighting against your own weakness, when the actual fight is structural. You're not just resisting the desire to spend, you're resisting an environment designed with billions of dollars in behavioral research behind it to make spending feel costless in the moment. Every financial interface you interact with has been A/B tested thousands of times to minimize psychological friction. One-click checkout, pre-filled payment information, subscription models that charge you passively instead of asking permission each month, aspirational marketing that ties purchases to identity. These aren't accidental features. They're precision tools built on decades of data about how human decision-making actually works versus how we think it works. And it's not even predatory by traditional definitions. No one is lying to you. The terms are disclosed. You have access to calculators and comparison tools. But disclosure doesn't matter when the design makes the disclosed information feel abstract and the immediate benefit feel concrete. Here's the uncomfortable math beneath all of this. For most people, the gap between earning and spending operates on a razor's edge. The median American household saves about 6% of income. That margin is where every financial decision lives. A 6% gap means one moderately large unexpected expense, one period of reduced income, one medical event, one impulse purchase pattern, and you're in debt accumulation instead of wealth building. This wouldn't matter if financial decisions were purely rational. If you made each choice by calculating expected value and comparing alternatives. But you don't. You make them in context. When you're tired, when you're stressed, when you're celebrating, when you're comparing yourself to people around you, when you're trying to signal something about yourself, when you're trying to solve an emotional problem with a purchase. And those contexts don't care about your intelligence. A smart brain under stress makes the same systematic errors as anyone else. Actually, it makes more expensive versions of the same errors. The lawyer buys the luxury car instead of the economy model. The doctor finances the kitchen renovation instead of saving. Same impulse, bigger price tag. The system isn't broken. It's working exactly as designed. The financial industry profits from the gap between how you intend to behave and how you actually behave. And that gap, that systematic difference between your planning self and your deciding self, is where the entire consumer economy lives. Once you're behind, the architecture accelerates everything. Debt compounds. Missed payments trigger penalties. Lower credit scores increase the cost of borrowing. Overdraft fees drain the buffer you needed to avoid more overdraft fees. The stress of financial instability makes sleep worse, which degrades decision-making, which creates more financial instability. You know you should deal with it. You understand the math. But dealing with it requires confronting information that triggers genuine distress, so you avoid it, which makes it worse. This pattern shows up in emergency room data. Financially stressed patients avoid medical care until conditions become emergencies, which costs 10 times more than preventive treatment. They know prevention is cheaper, they're not stupid, but the immediate psychological cost of engaging with both the medical system and the financial implications feels higher than the abstract future cost of getting sicker. Smart people describe this as a moral failure, a lack of discipline. But discipline is a finite resource, and modern financial life is designed to drain it constantly. You're making thousands of micro-decisions every week, each one pulling you slightly toward immediate relief and away from distant outcomes. Most of them you make correctly. But you only need to fail a small percentage of the time for the math to turn against you. That Harvard professor who lost 40% in 2008? He eventually published another paper, not about economics, about the psychology of knowing something intellectually and being unable to act on it emotionally. He titled it, Believing and Doing. He never resolved the gap. If you find these video educating, subscribe, like, comment, and share so that other people can see this video.